Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Hope you have your coffee. Thanks for joining me this morning. I'm Mitch, coming to you from a coffee shop in Texas, and we're here to talk screenplay writing. Who wants to be the next Christopher Nolan? Or maybe Tyler Sheridan? Well, anyway, thanks for being with me. Here's my notes for the day. We're going to talk about today Act 1, the setup, just real briefly. Remember, we're in the midst of a goal here to write a screenplay, a rough draft. It's not going to be perfect, but we just want to get the rough draft done within the next 90 days. We're working on this 10 hours a week is all. Just 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day for 5 days. I mean, come on, anybody can do that. So 10 hours a week for the next 10 weeks, and hopefully we'll have our rough draft done. That's what we're working toward. And each day I'll be with you Monday through Friday and just checking in. And you can certainly join us in the chat, ask questions, or if you're watching this via tape later on, you can always make some comments and ask questions, and let's make this a conversation. All right, Act 1. What are some essential elements that are going to go into Act 1? Well, first of all, there's going to be the setting of the tone. If it's going to be a dramatic screenplay, or if it's going to be a comedy, or if it's going to be some sort of action film, all of that stuff is going to be set off there in that opening act. Is it a fantasy, a spoof? You know, you just need to sort of give people a promise of what the film is going to be like. This is kind of what to expect. Then there's going to be a theme. You will also want to establish the theme, and one of the characters in that first act will probably come right out and say it in some sort of a conversation, dialogue. The theme is going to be mentioned. It's not going to be very opaque. It's going to be right out in front. You're going to tell people, okay, this is the theme. You're going to do it in a natural way, in some sort of dialogue with one of the characters, and give people a clear idea of what message you're trying to get across. Also, the story, going to do some world building. You want to give an idea of the setting, where this is taking place, in what area of the country or the world your story is taking place. What's different? What's interesting? What are the rules of the place? You kind of want to give an idea of what a normal day is like in the character's life before they're thrust into this problem that they have to address. Going to introduce the main characters. I was reading last night the first act of The Dark Knight, and within the first 5 pages we had already met the Batman, the Joker, and some of the local hoods that are working with the Joker. All of that was all introduced within the first page or two of the screenplay. So that first act, you're going to make sure that you've got all the major characters introduced in some way. Give them a scene in which they can stand out from the others. Let the audience know that these are the people we are targeting in the screenplay. So also, the protagonist is going to be homed in on. We're going to look at his flaws. We're going to suggest that we have to show the character in a good light at first. We want to feel sorry for we want to show some empathy. We want to sort of relate to that character in some way in that first act, and then we want to show that he's not perfect. He's got flaws. It must be clear in that first act that our hero is not perfect. so that as we go into the second act and he runs into problems, then we'll have a firm idea of what he's facing and why he's having such problems. So we're sort of setting up the actor, the protagonist, to see what kind of issues he's going to have into the second act. And then, of course, toward the end, we're going to have some sort of inciting incident. There's going to be something that's going to show itself as the major conflict. It's the first perception of the problems that are going to come about. It's going to be something that will propel us into the second act. There's going to be some major issue that takes place. Some main tension. This is a predicament. This predicament sets up the main tension around which the story will be built. Why they fall in love? Will they rob the bank? Will they escape alive? There's going to be some sort of tension going on. The stakes, in order for us to keep people around and keep them interested into to go into and follow us into Act 2, we've got to raise the stakes. They have to be clear. What's important? What is it our hero is after? What are our main characters looking to achieve? What's their goal? There has to be a clear goal set out. And that clear goal has to be set up pretty quickly. Is it a matter of life or death? It probably should be. The major stakes, we've got to raise the stakes in some way. We've got to know the character's goal, what's driving them forward. And then the lock-in, we're talking here. The first act concludes once the main character is locked into a predicament, a problem, propelling him forward or her forward on a new quest to accomplish a specific goal. So the main thing we've got to do here probably is, in terms of just essentials, if you're going to boil this thing down, it's going to be introducing the characters, giving our main character a goal that is clear, and establish his weaknesses, his flaws, raise the stakes, and lock them in to this quest before we can propel them with some major problem into Act 2. There's got to be some reason that is going to push them forward into the second act. So there's a lot there to accomplish in the first act, and it's going to take up probably 25% or so of your screenplay. The first 25% has a lot of stuff that has to be accomplished, but it can be done fairly quickly. It doesn't take time. Here's a clip, a little bit more information, maybe something to shed some light.
What are some common mistakes that writers make in the first two stages of writing the screenplay, which compromises the first act and then subsequent acts? What are usually the first parts that end up compromising the entire work?
Yeah, I would go actually a little further with your question. I would say if you have problems in the first two stages, it's impossible for your script to work. I have this sort of motto, and that is, if you're having story problems, all roads lead to the hero's outer motivation. Because one of the biggest issues, one of the most difficult things for writers to really embrace is this idea that at the very foundation of any story is a visible goal that the hero wants to cross at the end of the story. They'll get so caught up in the inner journey, in the depth or dimension of the character, or in the themes they want to deliver, or they'll just think the premise is good, so they get lost in a thicket of events and plotting until finally they're just coming up with new ideas and adding idea after idea, and it becomes so complicated and so confusing that there's no story there. One of the biggest problem in stages 1 and 2 is it doesn't lead to a clear, visible finish line that anyone can envision, whether they're reading the script or watching the movie. They know what they're rooting for. Second thing is not showing the everyday life of the character before they get into the story moving forward. We have to have a setup. It can be very brief, or a character can be on the move, so to speak, action-wise. They can have just arrived in a town and we see them going, or they're going to a meeting, or going to meet with a hitman, or whatever it might be. But nonetheless, it has to convey this is who this character's been for some time, and it has to create empathy. And that empathy must occur immediately. We have to empathize before we start seeing what the flaws to the character are, before we start recognizing what this inner conflict is, or what this identity is, or what dark places they might go. First, we have to just connect with them emotionally.
Okay, so you can see we've got some work to do if we're going to get Act 1 to be successful. We've got to introduce all of this information fairly quickly and do a good setup. The entire screenplay is going to succeed or fail on our ability to make Act 1 successful. Act 1 is going to make us or break us. So we've got to spend some time in making sure we do a proper setup before we propel into Act 2. Well, thanks for being with me this morning. We hope you have a good day. Get some writing done, and try to get some writing done this week. We're only asking for 10 hours this week. So squeeze in 10 hours of writing, and we'll get this thing done. We'll have us a rough draft done here in about 90 days. So thanks for being with me. Hope you have a good morning, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, 8:30, right here. Thank you.